Good afternoon and welcome to our news conference, our technical briefing today. We have with us Julie Sunday, Assistant Deputy Minister, Consular Security and Emergency Management, Major General Darcy Molstad, Canadian Joint Operations Command, Jennifer Macintyre, Assistant Deputy Minister, International Affairs and Crisis Response with the IRCC, and Patrick Boucher, who is the Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, National and Security Cyber Branch. I believe we have brief opening remarks, and then we'll turn the floor to questions. We have about 20 minutes for questions today. We have quite a few journalists in the room for those of you online, so we'll do our best to get to the folks who are online, but we'll start with questions in the room, as is our custom. Go ahead.
Thanks. Good afternoon. Today, I will once again provide updates on consular services being provided to Canadians who are affected by this crisis. Tout d'abord, je ferai le point sur les départs assistés d'Israël. À ce jour, nous avons aidé plus de 1500 Canadiens, résidents permanents et membres de leur famille à quitter Israël. D'ici la fin de la journée, il y aura eu 16 vols au départ de Tel Aviv en 9 jours. Nous avons suivi de près la demande pour ces vols et maintenant que de nombreux Canadiens ont quitté Israël avec succès, ce besoin est réduit. We are planning to conduct CAF flights tomorrow and Sunday. If you intend to leave Israel, I strongly recommend that you contact us and provide us with your information as soon as possible so that we can put you on one of these flights. If you are given a seat on one of these flights, I urge you to take it. For the time being, commercial options out of Tel Aviv also remain available, although these are still limited. For the Gaza Strip, the situation remains extremely fluid, and while there have been positive signs, the Rafah border crossing remains closed for foreign nationals seeking to leave. We are continuing to communicate directly with Canadians who wish to exit. We know they are facing extremely difficult conditions, and we are doing everything we can to support them. Diplomatic efforts continue to secure a window for foreign nationals to exit at the Rafah crossing. If and when this movement happens, it will be a significant multinational effort. We are working hard with our allies, the UN, and governments in the region to ensure that Canadians will be able to take advantage of any window. There are encouraging signs that humanitarian assistance may soon be able to pass from Egypt into Gaza. This is an important step towards the eventual movement of foreign nationals out. Our mission in Cairo continues to engage with Egyptian authorities to ensure that any Canadians that can pass through the Rafah crossing will be transported to Cairo and onward to Canada. For the assisted departure options from the West Bank, we continue to assist the departure by land of Canadians, permanent residents, and their family members from the West Bank into Jordan. As of today, we have successfully assisted 33 departures, and we are planning for further transfers on Sunday and Monday. Our mission in Ramallah continues to be in direct contact with all Canadians in the West Bank who require assistance leaving. We will be conducting further assisted departures based on need and in line with the security situation on the ground as it continues to evolve. Finally, as we saw with protests and violence in Beirut earlier this week, the situation in Lebanon continues to be unstable. In the last 48 hours, we have now changed our travel advice to advise against all travel to Lebanon. Canadians should not travel to Lebanon for any reason. For those Canadians who are already in Lebanon, we strongly advise that they seek commercial options to leave as soon as possible. We also ask that they please take steps to ensure that they and their family members have all the necessary travel documents. As mentioned in previous tech briefings, whole-of-government planning is actively taking place to prepare for all possible scenarios. And we've also pre-positioned our Standing Rapid Deployment Team officers in the region. Thanks, and I'll pass it over to the Major General.
Merci beaucoup, Julie, et bonjour tout le monde. Je suis le vice-chef des opérations des Forces armées canadiennes. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous faire une brève mise à jour sur nos opérations afin de soutenir les affaires mondiales Canada. The CAF air bridge between Israel and Greece continues, and we are continuing to work with GAC to assess demand. There was one flight yesterday, one flight today, and an additional flight, as was mentioned, is scheduled for tomorrow and Sunday. Concurrently, the CAF continues to send forces forward into the region in order to conduct planning and liaison with our global affairs colleagues and allies. In response to a request for federal assistance from Global Affairs Canada, as of today, the CAF has been supporting the assisted departure of Canadians from Israel for 9 consecutive days. Under Operation Ion, the CAF has been flying passengers from Ben Gurion Airport into Athens, Greece, since the 12th of October. Based on reduced passenger demand, we recently reduced the size of our air detachment to 1 CC-150 Airbus and are conducting 1 assisted departure flight per day. À ce jour, un total de 16 vols ont été effectués avec plus de 1500 passagers repatriés. Given the heightened tensions in the region, concurrent to Ion, the CAF have been sending additional forces forward into the region at the request of Global Affairs Canada under the auspices of Op Lumen. Working with our Global Affairs counterparts, our task force in theater is charged with working with key allies and partners to consider, coordinate, and plan for potential contingency operations, specifically oriented to potential non-combatant evacuation operations in Lebanon. Given this orientation, the preponderance of our forces are currently located in Cyprus, where allied partners and nations have integrated into a multinational non-combatant evacuation operations coordination center. In addition to our main body in Cyprus, the CAF has elements in Greece, Israel, and Lebanon. The CAF is and will remain postured to fully support Global Affairs Canada as the situation evolves.
Sorry. We will now open the floor with questions. As I mentioned before, it's 1 question, 1 follow-up, and please don't speak too closely into your microphone as it's difficult for our interpreters to follow along. Our first question is Rafi Bouchikanian.
Thanks very much. I wonder if you could tell me, I know you're in touch with the families of the Canadians who are missing. What are you telling them right now?
Yeah, so certainly we're in touch with the families. I mean, I can't speak to specifics, but we are, of course, reassuring them that we are working with our allies, that we are connected to those in Israel, to the U.S., to other partners. And the team would be updating them as relevant facts become available. So certainly there's close communication with the families. Oui, alors nous sommes en communication avec les familles des Canadiens qui sont disparus. Nous essayons de leur informer de tous les faits pertinents à ces cas consulaires. Mais aussi, nous sommes en correspondance avec tous nos homologues du gouvernement d'Israël et aussi des États-Unis pour qu'on puisse partager de l'information pour essayer de résoudre ces cas consulaires très difficiles. Merci.
Thanks. And maybe for the Deputy Minister from the IRCC, would Canada be willing to accept Palestinian refugees from Gaza, non-Canadians?
So maybe to clarify, I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister, but right now we're really focused with working with Global Affairs on the assisted departure of Canadians and permanent residents and their immediate family members. So that's where the focus is at this time.
Valérie?
C'est toujours la même question qu'on vous repose, j'en suis consciente. J'espère quand même une réponse différente, ou peut-être un peu plus de nuances dans la mesure de ce que vous êtes capable de nous dire. Vous avez parlé d'un manque de confiance plus tôt cette semaine qui fait en sorte que vous n'êtes pas en mesure d'évacuer les Canadiens qui sont à Gaza. D'où provient ce manque de confiance? Comment est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner un peu plus de substance pour qu'on comprenne quel est le problème?
Alors, c'est une situation très difficile. Il y a plusieurs pays, il y a les Nations Unies, tout le monde essaie de résoudre ce problème. On a eu un peu de l'espoir avec la visite du président Biden. et ensuite la possibilité d'avoir de l'aide humanitaire à Gaza, parce que ça, c'est vraiment une condition pour qu'on puisse avoir un contexte où les Canadiens puissent sortir. Alors, on a besoin d'avoir de l'aide à Gaza, et puis on essaie aussi de discuter la possibilité pour les Canadiens et les autres de sortir du pays. Je vois que nous sommes nous avons des discussions maintenant avec l'Égypte, avec nos homologues en Israël, avec les États-Unis, et ensuite on planifie un contexte où les Canadiens sont sortis. Alors, je dirais que nous sommes en train de vraiment planifier pour cette possibilité. Et ça, c'est tout ce qu'on peut faire maintenant, mais j'espère qu'on aura l'opportunité d'aider ces Canadiens très tôt.
Et si Israël, comme prévu, entre dans Gaza, de quelle façon est-ce que ça change? Qu'est-ce que ça change pour vous et les Canadiens que vous tentez, et leurs familles que vous tentez de faire sortir de là?
Alors, nous sommes très concentrés à n'importe quel contexte d'aider les Canadiens. Alors, pour cette raison, nous sommes en train de vraiment planifier un contexte, l'assistance consulaire pour les questions au sujet de la diplomatie canadienne avec tous ces pays. Je dirais que mon collègue Alexandre n'est pas ici aujourd'hui, alors je concentre un peu sur les questions consulaires. Mais vous pouvez demander à notre ministère et ils vont vous répondre dans le contexte, in the normal media relations approach. Yeah.
Alex Ballinger.
I just want to make sure I understood en français what you were saying. That the humanitarian corridor needs to open first before we can get people out of Gaza. I wonder if you can kind of explain that a bit more, why that's the case, why that's a prerequisite for the evacuation.
I know there are discussions are ongoing, and certainly that was information that was released after the Biden visit. An expectation that there will be an opportunity for humanitarian aid to go into Gaza. It only makes sense that aid goes in and the gate opens, and we have the possibility to also bring people out. So. This is what we're planning for. This is what we're looking for signs that environment, that opportunity to bring aid in is going to move forward. It's our sincere hope that it does, and when it does, we are ready to be able to receive Canadians and their family members on the Egyptian side, and to facilitate their return to Canada. So our mission is completely mobilized to be ready to do that. We've moved in standing rapid deployment team members into Cairo to be able to support that movement.
And just on the number of Canadians in the Gaza Strip right now who are asking for help to get out, can you update us on the latest there? And then also if there's been any reports to Global Affairs of Canadians who've lost their lives in the Gaza Strip.
For the question. So we're looking right now at supporting approximately, and again the numbers change, but approximately 430 Canadians out of Gaza, and that includes Canadians, permanent residents, and their family members. Sorry, your second question was?
If any Canadians have died in the Gaza
Right.
Strip.
Sorry, I have no reported deaths right now of Canadians in the Gaza Strip.
Boris Prou.
Boris Prou, Le Devoir. Vous avez parlé de signes encourageants, ou en tout cas utilisé une phrase comme ça pour parler de l'acheminement de l'aide humanitaire, pour parler aussi de Canadiens qui pourraient ressortir de Gaza. J'aimerais savoir si vous pouvez qualifier les signes que vous jugez encourageants, et quels indices là, vous fait croire qu'on avance dans la bonne direction?
Alors, À mon avis, je vois que les discussions continuent. Je sais qu'il y a un effort très, très motivé pour s'assurer que l'aide humanitaire peut rentrer et que les Canadiens peuvent sortir et les autres nationalités. Alors, je vois que la discussion continue. Je dois avoir toujours l'espoir que le contexte va changer et que la barrière à Rafah va ouvrir. Alors, je n'ai pas quelque chose de très spécifique à dire, mais je dirais que tout le monde est engagé à essayer d'aider les gens qui restent à Gaza.
Avec respect, les discussions qui continuent, c'est pas un signe encourageant. Ça, c'est une constante depuis plusieurs jours maintenant.
Oui.
Moi, je parle d'éléments nouveaux, parce que de notre côté, on comprend pas ce qui bloque l'aide humanitaire d'entrée. Il semble que l'Égypte ait enlevé les barrières. Qu'est-ce qui empêche l'aide humanitaire d'entrer?
Malheureusement, je n'ai pas dit spécifique, mais je dirais que nous travaillons comme d'une manière très, très concentrée pour s'assurer qu'on a toute l'information qui est nécessaire pour les autorités égyptiennes pour permettre les Canadiens à sortir. On est en train de vraiment avancer cette information. Alors, je n'ai pas quelque chose de spécifique. Je ne peux pas dire qu'est-ce qui arrive dans les grandes conversations diplomatiques en ce moment, mais je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de motivation selon chez nous, mais aussi chez nos partenaires internationaux.
Tom Perry.
Hi. I guess my question is, I know the situation's fluid, but I guess realistically, how much hope do you think there is of getting Canadians out of Gaza specifically? And I guess, what are you saying to Canadians? Are you telling them that there's a chance they're going to get out, or that they've got to get ready for whatever comes next?
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking to Canadians. We're ensuring, checking on their well-being, which is very difficult right now for them. We are giving information that we have, which is that we are working toward securing their exit through that gate, and not just for Canadians, but also for their family members and permanent residents. We have, again, nothing sort of specific to say in terms of it's going to open at this time, but we are ready. And it's going to take, a lot of planning to ensure that we are, we're making sure we're ready to catch on the other side too. And I can say that is a big effort. We need to be able to support 430 people entering into Egypt and getting back to Canada. And we are moving full force to try to get all of those pieces into place so that once those individuals are through that gate, that we're able to get them safely back to Canada.
And do you have any concerns about the possibility of a ground assault, given that Hamas is still holding hostages, Canadian hostages included? And are you raising that with the Israelis?
I mean, of course, we're concerned about the safety and security of Canadians, and we've been very clear in our messaging. We understand there are a lot of risks involved in that area, and I know certainly we have emphasized the importance to our allies of protecting civilians. I don't know, my colleague wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're all concerned. The Canadian Armed Forces is not privy to the operational plans of the Israeli Defense Forces. So we can't tell you with certainty what's going to happen in the coming days. But of course, we don't have a presence in that region militarily, and so we have to rely on what we're getting from those that are on the ground, from our whole of government partners. And of course, we are prepared for the broader regional implications if we're required to help move people in areas where we can gain access to. And that's what we're planning and preparing for.
Judy Trin, CTV.
I'm curious to know whether or not you could provide some insight looking back to last week in regards to what happened at Rafah Gate, knowing that you're going to face similar challenges this weekend or in the near future. How we understand that Canadians were given an email to go head towards Rafah Gate, and it was closed 10 minutes before the exit time. Is that what you're trying to mitigate? You don't want that to happen? And what type of concerns did you have about what happened last week that could repeat itself this time?
So, I mean, I would say last week, we didn't indicate that the gate was open. We indicated that there may be an opening at a certain point, and that people should, organize themselves while keeping in mind their safety and security, and that having that situational awareness around their own movements. Last weekend was also when individuals in Gaza were informed of the need to move south. So that was something that we also had in our travel advice, because there were instructions from Israel that people within Gaza needed to move south. So we, in terms of kind of how we communicate, I mean, we're very clear, we're not going to tell Canadians to move to that border until we know for sure it's going to be open, and that it is open for the purpose of foreign nationals being able to move out of that gate. So that said, people understand this is a very fluid context, and we have recommended that people be sort of aware that the opportunity could be short, and that they could need to act on it quickly. So we are committed to, we will reach out the minute we know that gate will be open, and we are confident in that. We are confident that Canadians will have passage. We will be informing all of those individuals of that opportunity through every communication channel that we have, in order to maximize the number of Canadians who get out at that time. And again, we don't have any clarity on whether the gate will open for one set period of time, whether it will open over a course of a few days or many days. We do not have any of that information right now. Oui.
Avec les Canadiens qui sont à Gaza et la fenêtre d'opportunité qui sera probablement
Oui.
courte.
Alors, nous avons informé les Canadiens à Gaza de vraiment être très prudents, de prendre soin avec leur sécurité, de regarder le contexte, mais que quand la barrière va ouvrir, ça va être probable que ça va être pour un bout de temps. Ça ne va pas être pour un long temps. Et puis, alors, nous essayons de communiquer que les Canadiens doivent être dans un contexte où ils peuvent profiter de cette opportunité, de cette occasion. Mais dès le moment que nous avons de l'information, nous allons informer les Canadiens précisément de les choses très spécifiques, comment se rentrer, les documents, tout cela. On va les informer d'une manière très, très spécifique. Comment le faire en sécurité.
In regards to the Canadian Armed Forces preparation in Lebanon, you say that you are mobilizing for the possibility of helping evacuate Canadians from that country. What information do you have that the security of that region has deteriorated? And is it because of possible rocket fire exchange between the two nations, or is it because of violent protests? Can you give us some clarity as to what the security risks are that you are trying to mitigate against?
Yeah. Again, unfortunately, clarity in the defense and security domain is very difficult to achieve, and that's why the Canadian Armed Forces does the prudent planning ahead of time to be prepared for any contingency, and that's what we're doing. So there's nothing that's telling us that something is going to happen in Lebanon right now specifically, although we are watching all of the intelligence and the activities on the border, the reactions of Hezbollah. But we are making plans and preparations and coordination to be prepared to react if we have to, so that we can do it quickly in order to save Canadian lives if that should occur. But again, prudent planning, nothing is telling us right now that it's going to happen, but we want to be prepared when it does.
And just getting back to our travel advice, we we've put our highest level of travel advice up for Lebanon, which is do not travel. And our best advice to Canadians right now is to leave Lebanon while there are commercial options. It is entirely undesirable to have to be in a situation where an assisted departure or an evacuation is required. These are very difficult. They're difficult from many angles, but certainly it's a situation. It's better to leave when individuals are not under duress and where they can ensure their safety departing.
How many Canadians in Lebanon?
So we have, I don't have the ROCA in front of me, but it's effectively about 14,500 on our registration of Canadians abroad.
Steve Chase, Globe and Mail.
I apologize if I'm just asking a question that's already been asked in some other form, but with respect to the 130 people you said in Gaza are seeking assistance to leave, the last thing I recall you saying is warning that only Canadian citizens are going to be allowed out, and I want to see if that's changed. And the reason I'm asking about this is I'd like you to separate the 130 Canadians or number there into the citizens versus permanent residents and their families, because this is about expectations, but it's also about what happens to the rest of them.
So actually, I said 430, so I'll correct your number there. In terms of, yes, initially we were concerned that this would be largely just for Canadians. After discussions with partners, Egyptian authorities, others in the region, we are and I say this, we are fairly confident that we will be able to assist the departure for the family members and for permanent residents. And so we are working with this entire group to facilitate exit.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The second question is just, can you reiterate the plans for what you're going to do if the Rafah Gate is open? You talked earlier about the embassy in Cairo setting up a plan. Just give us as much detail as you can about what's going to unfold then.
Well, I mean, this is very much, it's going to be a multinational coordination effort, right? So we're working closely with all of our partners who have their citizens also there. And so we'll be working with them. There will be an element of making sure that we are, there, whether it's Egyptian authorities bringing people to Cairo or whether we're picking people up. All of these details have to be kind of worked out. But certainly we are going to be there to support. We are looking at how we can facilitate Canadians then getting from Cairo back to Canada, and we will likely do something very similar to what we had in Athens in terms of supporting their onward travel. So we're looking at all of that. And we have, as I mentioned, we've put our standing rapid deployment team members in there. We are bolstering our resources, so we will be very much in a good position, and we're extremely linked in with our allies in terms of planning. So all of the details are still under discussion, but absolutely we'll be ready to move.
And maybe just to link back to your first question, IRCC is on the ground with the consular team to support those foreign national family members as they come through with Canadians and permanent residents, so to be ready.
We just have a couple of more minutes here, so we're going to wrap up just with questions in the room. We'll go to Laura Osmond with the Canadian Press and then to Jeremy from CTV.
Thank you, Laura Osmond, Canadian Press. I have a question for the public safety official on the line. You didn't have any opening remarks, but I understand you're a cybersecurity expert. I was wondering if there's a cybersecurity issue associated with this conflict that Canada is facing.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and I could confirm that there isn't at this point that we've seen. I've been asked to join just more from a community safety perspective here. There's been a lot of obvious anxiety that has sort of played out here domestically with the situation abroad, and I think that's absolutely normal. What I can say is that in regards to various domestic peaceful protests, which I would say is a sign of a healthy democracy. Demonstrations that have occurred here as of yesterday and over the last couple of weeks have generally and for the most part been peaceful. And just to reassure that our portfolio agencies and law enforcement continue to work very closely with various federal partners, with allies, and also with local police forces across the country to really ensure the continued safety and security of all Canadians. So we'll continue to engage with communities most affected by these events here domestically, to hear their concerns and work with them to foster trust and closely monitor the situation here domestically.
Thanks very much. Separately, I'm wondering if Canadians are indeed leaving Lebanon, if you have any evidence of people sort of heeding the advice so far, and if not, do you have a sense as to why?
That's a good question. I don't have that data, so I can't speak to that. I do know, our ROCA is increasing a bit, like modest amounts, and so I think, people are listening to the advice. I would say, people have longstanding ties, families. These are really difficult decisions to make, and we understand that. But our best advice is it's time to come back to Canada. Yeah.
And our last question will be to Jeremy.
Thank you. There are reports 2 American hostages are going to be released by Hamas. Do you have that information? And do you have any further information about hostages being released, specifically anything about Canadians?
I don't have that information, and I don't have any updates on the missing persons.
I believe that's all the time we have for today. We thank the officials for their time and wish everybody a safe and peaceful weekend. Thank you.